What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over 6, I think, maybe more, I don't know, Lightroom tips that you might not know, you might, but if you don't know, they're gonna be super valuable. So my name's Will. Without further ado, we're diving into Lightroom. Here's a photo I took when I was out in Sedona in Arizona, and the first thing we're gonna do is adjust the exposure. Now, one thing you're probably familiar with is the histogram, but did you know you can actually make adjustments using the histogram? If I come here and click on, you see how it says blacks, shadows, exposure, highlights, and whites, right? So if I want to raise the whites, I can actually click here and then slide over and it'll raise the whites. If I then go to the blacks, click here and slide over, it will adjust the blacks. It'll lower them down. So here's the before, here's the after. I've already made a few adjustments. If I go to the exposure, click, I can slide it to adjust the exposure. But let's say I want to adjust just the midtones. Now, I don't mean go into basic and adjust the shadows, right? Or the highlights. I don't mean do that, which I could do that. However, if you look at the histogram when I adjust these, for example, let's adjust the shadows. As I raise the shadows, a lot of the histogram moves. As I adjust the highlights, again, the whole histogram seems to shift. So what can I do? Well, let's go down into color grading. Click on the midtones and we'll adjust that. And then down here, you'll notice luminance slider. So watch this right here, this luminance slider. If I adjust this, just the midtones is moving. The whites and highlights are staying still. Just the midtones are adjusting. If I then go to shadows, watch the shadows and the darks. If I adjust that, again, just that is adjusting. The midtones and everything else stays the same. If I go to highlights, same exact thing. The highlights and the whites move, but basically the rest of it stays the same. So this allows you to target the luminance ranges in those specific areas even more precisely rather than using the broad scope of the basic panel. Now, the next thing is the tone curve. Now, this is a very powerful tool and probably one of the most misunderstood ones, but let's try and simplify it a little bit. If you go into the tone curve, you can adjust a lot. Like you can play around with this thing. You can really mess up your image. You can do a ton of stuff with it. And it's very easy to overdo it. So there is an actual preset built in that allows you to make simple adjustments, not necessarily for your entire adjustment, but at least to get you started. So at the bottom here, you'll notice linear. You can select that and choose either medium contrast, which will give you a very small S-curve, or strong contrast, which will give you an even bigger S-curve. Now, I'm not saying this is where you stop, but it could give you a spot to start and then make tweaks and adjustments just to give you a kind of a starting point. But another thing to note, when you increase the contrast in an image, especially when using the tone curve, you increase also the what? That's right, the saturation. Now, you can go from here into your color mixer and you can adjust the saturation. But Lightroom has this cool feature right here that says refine saturation. Now let's zoom in here, pressing Command on a Mac, Option on a PC, I think. I get the little square and I just draw a box and I can zoom in. And you'll notice it's really rich. So if we do the before and after, so here's the before, here's the after. So there's definitely contrast, but there's also intense oranges. So what we can do is we can then take this slider and we can slide it down all the way back to 0, where now we have the contrast, but not the saturation. And this is a really great tool because it allows you to keep your image looking the same with more contrast, but the same saturation that you originally wanted. So now here's the before and the after. Notice how the color really didn't change. Yes, it's not as hazy, which for sure, but the contrast is there without the saturation. Here we go. Let's show it again with the saturation. Saturation, no saturation. And that makes a world of a difference in making your images look the way you want them to look. I need a favor really quick. Can you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already? It really helps out the video and also helps my channel. Also, if you're really enjoying these Lightroom tips and tricks, I have spent a long time developing my Lightroom Master of Editing course. I added everything that I personally know. I'm constantly adding more lessons to it, but it pretty much covers everything you need to know to edit like a pro in Lightroom. So if you've been having trouble or if you're just not fully getting to that point in Lightroom that you want to be, check out the course. I'll link it in the description. But for now, let's get back to the video. Now, the next one is kind of a cool feature if you have dust spots or spots on your lens and you're not sure where or how to get them off. So if we go into the eraser tool here, right? If you click on visualize spots, you get this scene right here. Now, as you lower this down, you can adjust it so you can see more or less. Now, for example, if we zoom in right here, that was a spot on my monitor. Hang on, let me clean my monitor here so I can actually see what we're going for. Well, my camera is relatively clean, but if I were looking for a spot, let's see, that's a cloud. I don't see any spots on this. I keep my stuff very clean. But this is a terrible example of finding out spots. However, this is a way you can find those spots simply by turning on visualize spots and then adjusting this and seeing if there's something that shouldn't exist. For example, what about right there? That looks like a spot. So let's take that as a spot, and we're going to just take the little tool and we're going to clean it up. And now that spot is gone. Boom, good. Now we have cleaned up all of our spots. The next one is kind of an organizational tool. Let's say you've been editing and you have all of these screens here and you want to go down. Let's open up a few more. And let's say you have all of these screens open and you want to get down to effects. Well, this you have to go pretty far away, right? Now, what you can do is you can right click anywhere on the menus and you can go to solo mode. What this does is this will close all of the other panels except for the one you have open. For example, effects is open, but let's say I want to open tone curve. Now effects is closed and tone curve is open. Let's say I want to do color grading. You get the idea. It allows you to quickly go through all your panels so they're not just all splayed open and you have to scroll all over the place. It just makes it a little bit easier to edit. The other thing you can do is if you click on one of them, go to customize develop panel, you can arrange them or select or uncheck them so they show or not show as you see fit. Let's say you never use detail. Well, uncheck it. Let's say you never use transform. Uncheck it. Let's say you use, I don't know, the calibration the most. Well, you want to slide this one up to the top. Well, you can do that as well, or slide it back to the bottom. If you want to get back to the default order, click default order, press save, and there you go. This is just an easier way to organize your panels so you can have the ones that you use most at the top or not have them at all to clean up space, so to speak. And the last one is a before and after thing. Now, let's go ahead and slap one of my presets on here. Hazy Days from my Exploring Photography preset pack. And now we have an edited photo. And you know how to do before and after. You just hit the backslash, before, after. But let's say you want something a little bit more precise. Well, if you press Y on the keyboard or click the two Y's down here, you get before and after options. Now you can arrange these any way you want. If you click the Y's, this little arrow, you can arrange them left to right, top to bottom, bottom to top, and this will show you the before and afters in whatever alignment you choose. But did you know that you can actually zoom in and you can see them up close, just like this, so you can be really, really specific on your before and afters. So now you can make tweaks while you're zoomed in here. For example, let's say I want this more orange and softer. So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna adjust the softness, right? Then I'm gonna come into the saturation and adjust the saturation so it looks a little bit more intense. And this allows you to be even more precise on your before and afters so you can get your images exactly how you want them. And that's all the tips. So what do you think? Were they helpful? Did you find at least one in there that was helpful? Well, if you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Here's a couple of videos that I recommend you go check out. But that's it for this video, so I'll see you in the next one. Later.